We're back for another week of talk about Citadel Bulldogs sports with alumni interviews and more. This is Citadel Grayline from CRM Sports. Hello there, John Rawl is my name. Glad to have you here on this All Dogs program, powered in part by some great sponsors. We'll get to those sponsors in a moment. We've got a busy show this week. We'll look back at the unfortunate Parents Weekend loss to ETSU and ahead to what's going on with Citadel Bulldog Sports. We've got some other non-football news to tell you about here on this program. But let me start off today with a very solemn start to this show, as many South Carolinians, Georgians, Floridians, North Carolinians, and more have been suffering from hurricane/tropical storm Helene. Unfortunately, nearly 200 people now accounted for in the death toll of this storm. We've got the President of the United States in South Carolina today. Our hearts are certainly out there with all of you who've suffered and those who, unfortunately, are no longer with us, from all of us at Citadel Grayline. In fact, this game impacted the ETSU game, with ETSU literally being stranded for hours and finding their way into Charleston when the sun was coming up Saturday, and they somehow still outperformed the Citadel at Johnson Hagood Stadium. We'll break all that down. We got Andrew Miller from the Post and Courier on with us. We also have Thomas Scruggs, our regular co-host. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is our special guest. And our special guest today actually ties in to last week's Knob Knowledge question. We had a doozy of a question last week that had something to do with the Citadel and books. And the question from last week Knob Knowledge question was that author Pat Conroy was known for his many books, including My Losing Season, about his senior year playing basketball at the Citadel. Our question this week is, which graduate, the one from last week, that we got a great answer on, and I'll tell you the winner of that in a second. Which graduate wrote a book titled My Winning Seasons, Discovering the Champion Within? Who wrote My Winning Season, Discovering the Champion Within? And if you happen to know that answer, then you got a nice prize pack from seniorprivate.com, which brings us Knob Knowledge. Well, right here, in case you've always wanted to know what the book My Winning Seasons actually look like, looky here. Here's the book, My Winnings. Look at that beautiful hardcover book, mine signed by the author. The author is right there, Joe Crochet, who wrote this book about his time playing for the Citadel Bulldogs in the mid-20-teens, if you will. Looky there, that's a great-looking book. And you know what? What's even better looking than this book is Joe Crochet himself. And let me go to Decatur, Georgia, and there we find Joe Crochet. Welcome into Citadel Grayline. Congratulations.
Oh, man, thank you. Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here with you. And we're going to talk about your great years playing for the Citadel, what led you to author this book. Not too many people write a book literally when their playing career wraps up, and that's what you did when this book came out several years ago. We'll get your take on what's going on with your professional career, but also want to talk to you, Joe, about Citadel football and more. You're in the Atlanta area. Hopefully, I just mentioned Helene. You doing okay with the storm?
I am. We were fortunate enough to just have an inch or two of water in our basement. Other than that, we did all right. So again, those that were affected, it was devastating what happened, and thoughts and prayers go out to them.
Yeah, a tough one, of course, not just for Georgia, but all of the Southeast almost impacted by this storm. Let's go to the Low Country, where Andrew Miller of the Charleston Post and Courier is on with us. Hello, Andrew.
How are you, John?
Doing well, doing well. Of course, you were, like other Citadel folks in the Low Country, hurricanes are a typical thing this time of year. Maybe the Low Country was the least hit area of South Carolina when this thing came through, but you still were impacted. Not that important, but the game had to get moved back a little bit.
Yeah, the game got moved back 3 hours from the 2 o'clock tip-off to the 5 o'clock tip-off. From the 2 o'clock kickoff to the 5 o'clock kickoff. I think my brain is still back with the New York Knicks, who are actually in town practicing at the Citadel all this week, and ended up going down there yesterday for a couple of interviews, which was really interesting. But yeah, certainly Tropical Storm Helene never seen any kind of impact on the Smoky Mountains, at Asheville area. Ironically, my wife and I had actually started to look into maybe, getting some property up there, because that's maybe where we were thinking about retiring. And one of the places that we looked at was Lake Lurie. Is it Lurie? I think that's how you pronounce it. It's around the Chimney Rock area. And now it's just it's so sad to see. It's completely devastated. The mountain regions just weren't ready for that kind of rainfall. And then obviously that led to some road closures and landslides and mudslides and everything. And ETSU ended up getting stranded for about 12 to 14 hours or in the Asheville area. You talked to Coach Trey Lamb after the game, and there were points where he wasn't, not only was he not sure that they were going to be able to get down to Charleston, he wasn't sure that they were going to be able to escape where they were because the waters were rising so fast. So really a tragic event all the way around. And yeah, somehow ETSU gets here on Saturday morning and end up sleeping in a hotel for about 4 or 5 hours, and they came out and played the game. And yeah, just a weird weekend, but kind of one that I've become accustomed to really since 1989 when Hurricane Hugo hit down here. And that was my first year reporting on high school athletics. And that just turned that season upside down.
Yes, it did. We're going to talk more about the game. Let's go to the Midlands of South Carolina. And while I do that, Joe Crochet, one technical thing, could you turn your volume down just a hair? We're getting a little bit of feedback on your end while we switch it over to Thomas. Thomas Scruggs is our co-host, and I know he's excited to be on this show today for many reasons. Tell us why, Thomas.
Yeah, we lost power about 5 a.m. Friday because we had about 10 inches of rain on Thursday. The high winds came through starting Friday morning. So we had over 100 trees just here in Forest Acres that fell, many of those on power lines and houses. Finally got power restored about 9 o'clock last night. I was down in Charleston and my wife texted and said, we've got power. So yeah, definitely glad to be in the home office. I'm here because our local utility provider kindly destroyed portions of our fence. And so we better get that repaired.
All right. Well, thank you for your honesty, sir. And a nice,
Sure.
you for not having power for several days, you're looking good.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Unfortunately, the Citadel was not looking quite so good in the game against the ETSU Bucks last week as they fell in that Parents Weekend. Great crowd on hand at Johnson Hagood Stadium. And we're going to dissect it now with the four of us. I don't know how much you've kept up with Bulldog football, Joe Crochet, but something tells me you kind of keep up with them dogs. What else can we say about the loss? A loss where the Citadel once again shoots themselves in the foot in more than one way.
Yeah. So just so y'all are aware, I stay very involved still with the Citadel football program. We donate to CFA yearly and
Good.
And try to sponsor state night once a year. But the other thing is I haven't missed a game, whether I've watched it or been there in person, since I've left the Citadel. So it was a heartbreaker to watch the last game against ETSU. There were some good things and there were some not so good things, but I think fundamentally, it's great to see an offense that has big plays and is explosive. And can really make a difference in crunch time situations. But on the flip side, I was a defensive player, so I feel for those boys when we have a quick 3 and out or an explosive play that's 1-2 touchdown or something like that, and then now all of a sudden you got to get back on the field. So maybe some conditioning might help those guys out a little bit, but I think it really comes down defensively, just fundamentals and just keeping with their assignments and just gap control. And if we can do that, stop the big plays, I think we'll be pretty sound. But it is exciting to see an offense that is actually passing the ball a lot more and being explosive in the air.
Andrew?
Yeah, midway through the third quarter, I thought, first of all, they got out to a much faster start this time, especially defensively. I think they had three and outs to start the game, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a really good start defensively. one of the things that I know that Maurice Drayton was really disappointed in was them not being able to take advantage of points off of turnovers. They created 4 turnovers, a couple of them deep inside ETSU territory. And I think they only came away with a touchdown there, and you need to come away with more points. But if you look at the game really turned on. They're down 13-10. It's midway through the third quarter. They get a turnover there. They go all the way down to the ETSU 11, and then they get the field goal blocked, but it really wasn't blocked. The kicker, Ben Barnes, he actually slipped as he was approaching the ball to make the kick, so that made the trajectory low, and then ETSU blocked it. But he was going to go. It was 4th and 1 there. He probably, I'm talking about Coach Drayton, probably would like that call over again. I think they should have gone for it in that situation. But I really can't fault them, because if they make a short little field goal there, then the game is tied. And then I think things maybe play out a little bit differently. There are some calls in the second half that I think Maurice Drayton would like back. And he said that to me privately, kind of off the record. But I thought overall, up until really the midway through the fourth quarter, it was anybody's game. But somehow I think that storm kind of galvanized that ETSU locker room. There's been a lot of we've received at the newspaper. Me and Scott Hamilton, our columnist who was on the scene on Saturday, we received kind of some negative emails and texts. And I saw ESPN even wrote about this, about how terrible it was that Citadel held this game. But I mean, what did you want them to do? Yeah, they could have postponed it till Sunday, but that still doesn't take away that ETSU was stuck where they were for 12 or 14 hours, and they couldn't get back to Johnson City because all the roads were closed. They would have to kind of come down around Columbia and then gone back up through South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia to get back home. So actually the quickest place for them to go and the best place for them to go to get electricity and everything was actually to come down here to Charleston and play the game, which I know sounds ironic considering that we get a lot of hurricanes that come down here. But I thought that really kind of galvanized their team, and I thought the Citadel kind of ran out of gas. That's why the ETSU got those 3 touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. But what I would tell the ETSU fans and the other media is, hey, ETSU got the win, take the win, and move on, because all the bitching and whining, at this point just doesn't matter.
That's right. And Joe Crochet knows how to go through these difficulties of storms passing through in the middle of a football season. Y'all had to go through that a couple of times during your time.
We did. Hurricane Matthew, that was a fun one. But, in those situations, right, they can break you or they can make you. So I think, obviously there was adversity for the Citadel, but also ETSU, it seemed that, when you're stuck on a bus for that long, you do bond more with your teammates. And so it creates more trust. And therefore, trust is one of the most important things in being successful on a football field. And so I think it was to their advantage. And as Andrew said, it kind of gave them a little more edge potentially, because there were these factors that they were playing against that we saw in the fourth quarter, obviously was toward their advantage.
And it worked out for them.
I was going to say, and Jonathan Bennett cannot throw a pick six. I mean, that's 2 in a row, back-to-back weeks, and he understands that, and he knows that. And one of the things you do like about Jonathan Bennett is he's a next play kind of guy, good or bad, whatever happens to play before. He's going to put that last play behind him. If he makes a mistake, he's going to learn from it and move on. But and Coach Drayton was talking about that he has that ability to kind of move on, learn from his mistake, but you can't throw back-to-back pick sixes in games, and that's got to change. And I think one thing we're going to see is Dustin Fletcher maybe play a little bit more, that he's going to get out there for a series. I think probably early in the second quarter. That sounds to me to be the scenario that Coach Drayton's going to go with for the next few weeks here. Give him some meaningful snaps, and again, he's trying to build a program, and building a program is developing that backup quarterback. And I will tell you something else, man. This Kobe Thompson kid, this freshman, he's going to be something when he gets developed. When he's a knob this year, but he is going to be something when he gets out there. I've been watching him in practice the last couple of weeks, and he's taking some steps forward.
Well, that is awesome to hear. Unfortunately, today's Citadel football world is a little bit different than when Joe Crochet played. And you're talking great about a player. They get courted now to transfer, don't they?
Oh yeah, for sure. But he's like I say, he's only a freshman. He hasn't played. So
Okay.
and one thing that Maurice Drayton has done, especially last year. I mean, they went 0-11 last year, and he had one guy leave, and that was it. And that was amazing to me that he was able to retain not
Okay.
only his coaches but the players on the roster.
All right. Well, let's hope for that. We do this show in part because of our great sponsors that help bring us Citadel Gray Line each week. And one of those great sponsors, Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning in the Columbia area, 803-281-2974. They've got a 24-hour emergency service available during the week. And if you go to franklinplumbing.sc.com right now, they've got a $250 off sewer replacement. Franklin Cleaning has a plumbing and drain cleaning, has a stellar team of plumbers on the ready. So call them up again for that 24-hour emergency service they've got during the week. 803-281-2974 and franklinplumbing.sc.com is the web address to learn more about them. Also powered in part by Hood Construction. Hood Construction they've been at the business a long time, 38 years, and they build it the right way. And if you go to the website hoodconstruction.com, you'll be able to see how this full-service construction management company, with all these years of service, is doing a stellar job across the Carolinas and Georgia. They take a holistic approach to their clients' business and project objectives in order to find the best value solutions. Go online again to hoodconstruction.com and see the featured projects that they have underway, including the LMC KC Urgent Care. That's Lexington Medical Center KC Urgent Care. And go check that out again at hoodconstruction.com. Powering building and more in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia for 38 years. Hood Construction. And again, some of our great sponsors along the way here this year. We've got IPS Packaging and Automation, our title sponsor, as well as Hood and Franklin. And then we've got Senior Private Shop. We're going to ask this week's Knob Knowledge question in just a moment. So you want to make sure you stay tuned for that. We got a lot of patches to send to the lucky winner of this week's Knob Knowledge question. So y'all just hang tight for that one. All right, let's move on to talk about the other parts of this game with ETSU. A tough loss. Maurice Drayton covered it. Anything else before we close shop on this one, Andrew?
I think the one thing that's continuing to frustrate Maurice a little bit and the offensive coaching staff is kind of their lack of being able to run the ball consistently. Mercer was a really tough defense. There's no question about it. Statistically speaking, ETSU is in the upper half of the Southern Conference in defense as well, but still, they haven't been able to maintain a consistent running game like they did, especially in the second half against Charleston Southern. So that's something that I think they're going to continue to work on. Corey Ibrahim was a little bit banged up last week. You did see some good depth at running back. You got Cooper Wallace in there. You got Garrison Johnson was in there. Johnny Crawford came in there and got in a few snaps. But I think they really want to improve on that running game so they don't have to rely on Jonathan Bennett and his arm and throwing the ball downfield, because right now, at least at this stage of the program, they're really not able to do that on a consistent basis is get guys down the field. And one of the things we talked about at the press conference on Monday was team speed, and that's something that Coach Drayton is really starting to work on. He really wants to get their team speed to be a lot better, because right now, in his own words, he said that the Citadel right now is below average team speed-wise, even within the Southern Conference. So that's something that he's trying to address through recruiting.
All right. Well, Andrew, you cover the Dogs, and Joe, you have been a big-time dog, number 5, in fact, for the Citadel. You feel free to chime in, ask questions, or whatever. I'll just sit back here in the corner.
Okay. Yeah, I would say the one question I have is, obviously the speed is a factor, but what other factors do you think are being contributed to while we're not, successful rushing the ball as we have in past? Obviously, the change in the offense, but what other things do you think, Andrew, is going on there?
Well, it all starts with the offensive line. And when, Maurice Drayton took over, they had a certain kind of offensive lineman that they had recruited that specifically fit into the triple option and the way that they blocked that. And I think if you're trying to be more of a power running team out of the I formation or the pistol formation or really anything like that, it's going to take a different kind of offensive lineman. And they're recruiting, like Maurice Drayton is recruiting those guys. So it kind of starts there. But again, team speed, getting somebody who's a breakaway, big play threat. I think that's part of the issue. And then they need to find a little bit bigger, I think, running back, to be honest with you. Somebody like an Everett Sands, somebody like a Travis Jervey, the guys that I covered when I was back in the 90s. I know those are kind of more traditional fullback kind of guys, but they need a little bit bigger back, what I would call a 3-down back. Cooper Wallace is great in the passing game. He's got really good speed. He can make people miss in open space. But he's not a guy you can hand the ball off to, 15, 18, 20 times a game because he just won't be able to survive. He's just not that big. So I think getting a little bit bigger running back who's a 3-down back, and then just kind of recruiting, offensive linemen that fit the scheme a little bit better. I think we'll start seeing better results for the Citadel in the running game.
All right. Anything else? Thomas, we don't want to leave you out.
No, I was just going to add in, we shouldn't be too surprised by last Saturday's result. East Tennessee State, if you look at their schedule, they took North Dakota State, I believe, down to the wire. Lost to Elon. What's that?
I said they should have won the game. They should
have won the game.
Yeah, they should have won. And that's the number 2 team in the country.
This is not a 3-2 team that we just played. I think team speed does factor into it. Our athletes versus their athletes. And I'm more disappointed in the way we lost the game. I knew it'd be a tough game because of who ETSU is, but to throw a pick 6 and you're only down at that point by 3, you just get a field goal blocked. You just can't do that. You can't do that when football games in the Southern Conference. So Mr. Bennett's got to clean that up. Yep. But and if he does, we're in that. If you think about it, we're in that game till the end without that pick 6. So I'm excited for Furman to come to town, though. But if you look at 2 games ago, who Furman played, I was just looking at the schedule and the results there. They took William and Mary. They lost to William and Mary by 10. And William and Mary is a good football team. So we don't have a slouch coming into Johnson Hagood this Saturday either. We just can't have silly mistakes or we'll lose to Furman.
Yeah, East Tennessee State's a nationally ranked team. I think they were 23. I vote on the stats poll, the top 25 FCS stats poll, and I think I had them at 22 or 21. So I was pretty impressed with what they were able to do. Really, on both sides of the ball, you got to give Trey Lamb a lot of credit. He brought in 20 to 30 transfers, completely revamped their entire roster. So he's kind of doing it the way you do it now in college football. He's doing it through the transfer portal and then kind of sprinkling in some high school kids as well.
And one thing Coach Drayton brought up in his press conference, and I totally agree, that Furman is our rival. Furman traditionally has been our football rival. Yes, we have our military classic of the South with VMI. With Walford, that's been not a very good deal for us, recently, but Furman's our rival, and we hate to lose to Furman. I think their tagline on the Citadel Independent Sports page is "Purple makes me puke." So it is Purple makes me puke week.
It is that indeed, and we're going to talk about FU in just a second here on the Citadel Grand Line. Remind everybody that you can text us. You can text us on the Charleston number that we got, 843-779-8496. That number, again, available to you at 843-779-8496. That number also is what you can text the answer that I'm about to fire away to everybody for this week's Knob Knowledge question. First off, let me congratulate Christian Marquez, Romeo class of 2012. He is from beautiful Hanahan, South Carolina, and he is the guy that correctly guessed last week's Knob Knowledge question about who wrote the book, My Winning Seasons, Discovering the Champion Within, written by one Joe Crochet. And Christian, we've got a nice prize pack out your way from seniorprivate.com. So congratulations on correctly being the first guess at 843-779-8496 for last week's Knob Knowledge question. Now, this week's Knob Knowledge question, we've got an awesome prize pack awaiting the lucky winner of this, and there is what you're going to get. You're going to get a whole bunch of Citadel patches from seniorprivate.com. Look at those beautiful patches, Thomas Scruggs. Those would look good anywhere. Patches and stickers, I think, is what that is. It's actually a sticker prize pack. Those are more stickers now that I see the email correctly. The question this week is, while we affectionately call the Citadel sports team the Bulldogs as the mascot for this team, there was actually a brief time in the 1930s that the teams were called something else. What was that name? And Joe Crochet, don't blurt it out. We're trying to get a winner. If you can correctly tell us, the first person at that number, 843-779-8496, tell us what nickname the Citadel went by for a few years back in the Great Depression. Must have been a depressing time when they decided to get away from Bulldogs. They went with another name for a while, and I believe the sports writers could have had something to do with that. That's usually the case when it comes to naming teams back in that era. Tell us what the name they used, what it was, and you'll win a Citadel sticker prize pack with all those beautiful stickers that would look great on any kind of car, truck, side-by-side, or more. SeniorPrivate.com bringing us this each week, 843-779-8496. And, yes, we want to get those stickers headed your way with the correct person that lets us know who or what the Citadel was nicknamed during that FDR era of Citadel athletics. Okay, Furman, the opponent this week. They've had a rough go. Of course, when you start out the year losing by 70 points in Oxford to Ole Miss, it can only get better, right? Well, actually, for Furman, things have not gone all that well this year for them. A very surprising thing for a team that was in the, I think, semifinals of the FCS playoffs last year. We know that this is a power program usually. What's going on in Greenville SC, Andrew?
Well, I mean, they lost, a huge portion of their team from a year ago. They were a senior-laden team last year. Coach Clay Hendricks felt like, when I talked to him at SoCon Media Day back in July, he felt like they had been recruiting guys and developing guys and that they were going to be able to step in. Now, he did say there might be a learning curve here early in the season, but he felt like as the year went on, they were going to get better. I think he's had kind of mixed results there. I don't think they're playing as well as he thought they would play. And the interesting thing coming into this game is that, they haven't gone back to school yet at Furman. They're out for the entire week because there's no power on the campus. And when I talked to their sports information director, the great Hunter Reed, who's been up there forever, he was telling me that Clay Hendricks was worried about how he was going to be able to not only practice but be able to feed the guys because the area around Furman, it doesn't have any power. So they're trying to find places to practice and feed their guys and everything. So this should be another interesting game here. And then not only that, but you look even to next week, Western Carolina and what's going to happen there. They didn't get hit quite as badly as the Asheville area. And I talked to their people up there yesterday because my plan was to go up to Cullowhee in 2 weeks and watch that game. But they also have some issues with power and roads being open. So, next couple of weeks are going to be pretty interesting.
I'm surprised, and maybe they have, but I'm surprised someone from the Citadel athletic department or the administration hasn't reached out to Furman and say, y'all come on down here. Have you heard of any kind of gesture?
I talked to Mike Capaccio, the AD, yesterday. He said the game was still on, but I'm sure that they've offered those kinds of things, and that's just the way that teams are. But yeah, I didn't ask the question. So you're right. I will ask that and find out.
Because, we know from, I think even during Joe Crochet's time, even Clemson helped us out during some of these storms, and they went and practiced there.
Yeah, we actually, I want to say we did a little practice at Furman when we were playing. I want to say it was against North Greenville that one season, and it was very helpful for us. But the one thing I do want to talk about, especially with it being Furman, so it is a very special game. It is a big rivalry game. It's the first SoCon game for Furman of the season. So I think the Citadel, we have a little edge. We're 0-2 in the SoCon right now. We need to get back into fighting for that championship, which it still can be done even with 2 losses. And so how do you do it? You got to win each and every game out from here. And with Furman not having played a SoCon game, that's to our advantage. Now they're going to be coming in. They've had a lot of big losses. They're 1-3, huge loss at Ole Miss, 76-0. But it was a close game against William and Mary, a number 12 or 13 team in the country. But I think as long as the Dogs, they can be fundamentally sound offensively, not give up the ball, win the turnover battle, fundamentally be sound on defense, play gap control, have that bend but don't break mentality, and just take advantage of the opportunities that are given. I think we have a really good shot at not only being a winning team, but I think we can make a statement this game.
It sounds like you're ready to write a sequel to My Winning Seasons after this game.
That's actually I've been working on that the last year and a half, and I guess off the record, but we're on the record. My goal is actually to get those 2 books combined, but also to get a TV series going. So I've been in the works of that as well. So I'm working on some big things here.
Well, I don't know what you have in mind with the TV series, but you better play your own role because you still got the look.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm actually playing so I'm my day job is I'm a realtor, but I'm still like to explore other passions. And so back in 2019, I got my SAG-AFTRA card and have been in the Guild since then, and have worked on a couple of TV shows. And I'm currently working on a Hulu show right now where I am a college football player, so I am padded back up, and I'm supposed to be a 21, 22-year-old guy. So I appreciate that compliment, John.
Well, I'm just glad that I was being a wise guy about you writing a sequel. I would have never been able to pull that information out of all you, Joe. So, I guess being a smart aleck sometimes is good journalism. All right, so Furman, we know they need this win. Citadel needs this win. In the end, Andrew, who's going to walk away? What are the keys to victory is what I'm asking.
I know I sounded like a broken record here, but again, if you get turnovers, take advantage of those, score points, and again, the Citadel is doing such a much better job defensively on creating negative plays. If you look at their sack totals, you look at their tackles for loss totals, you look at their turnovers forced totals, way better than they were last year at this time. I think Raleigh Jackson's got them playing a lot better, a lot more. They're executing better. They're making fewer mistakes, assignment mistakes defensively. So, create those turnovers, create those negative plays. This Furman offense has struggled a little bit here, not only scoring, but moving the ball consistently. So I think those are keys. And then just don't throw a pick six and don't turn the ball over. And I think if they do those things, I think they're going to be fine. They're going to be right there in the game in the fourth quarter. And at home, you kind of like the Citadel's chances if it's a close game in the fourth quarter.
And Andrew, I don't know if you have a SAG-AFTRA card, but I do know you have an X account. And so we encourage everybody to go to @APMiller_PNC, and that way you can keep up with the Dogs. And if you don't have one of those actors cards, Andrew, you got a face made for movies too.
Thanks.
Thomas, not so much.
Same to you, John. You should stick with radio, buddy.
All right, Andrew, before we're going to rewind with Joe Crochet in a second and go back to 2 back-to-back SoCon championships for this program. Anything SoCon-wise that we need to be in the news about? What's going on?
I think that if you look at where teams were picked in the preseason and then where teams are right now, it's almost upside down. I thought Furman was going to be the class of the league and the best team in the league, and obviously there's still a lot of football left to be played. But I tell you what, Mercer's not that much of a surprise. I thought they would be a nationally ranked team, but I didn't think that they would. At least from what I've seen, they'd be the best team in the league right now. So them, ETSU, I was really impressed with them and their team speed, the way that their offense was running. It'll be just a really interesting last 6 weeks here of the season to see what goes on in the Southern Conference. And the other thing I mentioned earlier is that the New York Knicks are in town at the Johnson at McAllister Fieldhouse, working out here all week, and that's really kind of cool to see that. And one of the things that I enjoyed was all the cadets who had lined up near their team buses that were looking for autographs yesterday as the Knicks were finishing up practice and getting back to their hotel. It was kind of cool to see the Knicks players interact with all the cadets.
You realize the Knicks are based in New York and not Chicago, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. I mean, you're all Chicago for some reason. All right. We're going to get some other non-football news before we get out of here in a second. And right now, though, while we kind of have football on our mind, I'm going to talk about Joe Crochet in that great era of Citadel football, 2015, 2016, and the Mike Houston, as well as the Brent Thompson era of that time period. But let me first, everybody, tell you about our title sponsor here for Citadel Gray Line, and it is IPS Packaging and Automation. They've been cheering the Dogs on for a long time. This family-owned and operated powerhouse in the upstate of South Carolina has been a titan in the packaging industry since back in 1976. They've got 4 decades in the game, and they stand tall as a leader in the packaging products, automation, equipment, and top-notch service industry. They play a crucial role in the packaging processes of countless businesses and manufacturing facilities all over the good old US of A. And you know what? They have been a proud supporter of Citadel Bulldog Athletics for more than a decade. Discover what they can do for you at IPS Packaging and Automation. Call them 800-277-7007 or go to the website ipack.com. A proud supporter of Citadel Athletics is IPS Packaging and Automation. Here's a quick word about IPS, a Citadel-led company. All right, IPS Packaging, 800-277-7007. Joe Crochet, you are a Atlanta area kid that wound up at the Citadel. What year did you matriculate, sir?
In 2012.
Okay, so that would have been Kevin Higgins. So Kevin Higgins' crew recruited you, correct?
He did.
And I guess you played for 3 different coaches during your time there.
Yeah, we three different head coaches. I had 3 different defensive coordinators as well, and then also had 4 different position coaches while I was there. So almost every year was a tryout.
Mm-hmm. Now, in high school, were you recruited to other colleges? How did that work out?
I was. I had a couple offers. So I give my brother a lot of. I chirp at him per se, but. My brother had over 30 offers coming out of high school. He was a 6'3", 225-pound linebacker. I was not that. I was 6'2", about 205 pounds, soaking wet. And I was an undersized guy, but had speed and had the heart, right? So I had a couple schools, smaller schools, recruit me. It really came down to, though, between Furman and the Citadel. That's another reason why this game is so special is because I could have been spending, 4 to 5 years of my life calling, Greenville, South Carolina my home, which I'm glad I did not, because I made the best decision, I think, in my life going to the Citadel, and the people I've met and obviously the history we've made is second to none. But it was a different kind of time. We understand transitioning, and with Coach Drayton, he was actually in 2015, he was the defensive coordinator for us, and he's a phenomenal coach. I have nothing but great, things to say about him. I'm excited to see what he does with the program. Another thing is this is really his first class where he has his recruits for the offense and defense that he wants to implement. So it's only going to get better after, year after year. And I think we will have a very strong championship caliber team within the next couple of years if he's able to do that. And obviously if the Citadel is able to give the resources to provide to him to have the players have the weight that they need and to be successful.
How did you do when you showed up as a little knob? Was it like going to summer camp for you?
Man, I cannot believe I made it through that year. That was that was one of the toughest years of my life, no doubt. But the way to make it through it is obviously the camaraderie with your team, your classmates, upperclassmen, leadership, the coaches. There were 3 times where I just was like, you know what, I'm quitting, man. I can't do this. My friends are partying at other schools, such as USC, Clemson. And I'm like, man, what am I doing here? You know, I'm a Division I athlete, even though it is FCS, but at the same time, you know, I'm watching all of these other teammates that I graduated from high school with that are at SEC schools or other FCS schools, and they're being treated like gods, or they're being catered to. And it's quite the opposite that freshman year. But it really comes down to that family atmosphere, that locker room, and having people that you can count on and lean on during those tough times.
Well, Joe, not only were you a cadet, you were a stellar football player during that time. And I've got a little video of what I consider the highlight of Joe Crochet's tenure at the Citadel as a football player. It was the 2016. Go ahead and take a guess which game I'm going to play.
You'll surprise me. I'm not sure.
It's Wofford.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Where you had a key role there in overtime. But I'm gonna play a little bit of this video, Joe, and I'm gonna put you on the side of the screen since you're a SAG-AFTRA kind of guy, and I want you to just comment on what you see on the screen here. You kind of help me a little commentary here of this 2016 game when the Citadel entered this undefeated. I guess y'all were about y'all were like 7-0 or something like that going into this game. And here we go. Tell me what you're thinking. Who's that?
I can't. It's hard to see. I'm trying to look.
I believe it's your tight end.
Oh, Alex Glover then.
Yeah.
Man, this is bringing back some great memories. Russell Hubbs, Billy Williams.
Core was there.
Oh, yeah. Reggie. Man, I have not seen these guys since basically I graduated.
Y'all went into the fourth quarter. Y'all were trailing in this game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and if we didn't win this game, we wouldn't have won the conference that year. I mean, it really came down to that.
Dominique, touchdown. Look at that number 5.
Man, that was a heck of a play there.
Really good-looking guy coming up on the sideline.
The pitch
right
six.
There. Going into overtime. This was your transfer from MTSU with the field goal. And then here's Joe Crochet's finest moment. You punch that ball out, Citadel recovers, game over.
That was a special time. I don't know if you can see the camera, but I remember literally the next thing I did was I got on a knee and I thanked God.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, that was unreal. Just routine tackle in the head where the ball was, and fortunately it popped out and Ben jumped on top of it. But, man, I mean, if you think about it, though, if we didn't win that game, we wouldn't have been back-to-back team. And that season wouldn't have been as successful. Now, later on, Wofford does beat us, unfortunately, in the playoffs.
There you are right there. Yeah. Kyle Weaver, 57. Yeah. Great day there in Spartanburg with the victory over Wofford. Of course, Wofford got revenge, unfortunately, in the playoffs that year. But y'all started out the year 10-0 in 2016. Of course, in 2015, went over South Carolina, won the SoCon that year, won it in 2016. A very, very successful tenure there in Citadel blue and white for you and your teammates.
Thank you, and thank you guys for covering it. I mean, it was special, and I'm glad that we're still able to talk about it. And I'm hoping that the future of the program, we're going to be talking about more seasons just like that one and the previous year too.
We're sure hopeful for that. Joe Crochet again, our Band of Gold Spotlight. Your class of 2016, right?
I was, matriculated with the class 2016, graduated a year early, but that was so I could get off campus and do the MBA route and then finish that all within the 5 years of being redshirted and playing football.
Yeah. So you were done in 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't have to call me sir. I work for a living. Gentlemen, anything y'all got for Joe here?
Yeah, I'm wondering, Joe, what was when you see the defense and the schemes that they're running now, how different were they from what you were running, especially when Maurice Drayton was a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we always had a slogan: "Keep it simple, stupid, KISS." Right. So, um, if you look at our defense in 2015 and 2016, we rarely did anything different outside of our base defense. Yeah, we had different packages. Sometimes we'd go to the 4-2-5, or we'd be in a 4-3. But majority of the time, we wouldn't do anything crazy because we would really just have that gap control. So everybody knew their assignment. There was not a lot of movement going on, and it really came down to who's going to win their battles one-on-one. And then we were able to dominate because we just had that extra toughness that was built in us, and trust factor that we were able to have. But defensively, I would say I would like for the defense to kind of mirror what we were doing in 2015, 2016, keeping it simple and allowing these guys just to play within themselves and be assignment sound toward their jobs, and that way it stops the big plays from happening. And then, I mean, just fundamentals. And another thing, too, Coach Drayton would harp on. We would practice every single day in practice, which I'm sure he's still doing. But we would literally turnovers. Every single practice, we'd go for the ball. We also did the pursuit drill multiple times, so we were very conditioned. So I think if we get back to winning the turnover battle, being fundamentally sound, and the gap control, and then just making plays, and when we have the opportunity, I think we'll be really successful. The other thing, too, is that we got to keep in mind that this is only his first year having the recruits that he recruited, and every year we're going to build upon that. And so, not to say anything about the recruits from the previous class, but it is a transition period. There is a building back period. But I mean, Coach Houston was able to have a losing season his first year there with us, and then the following year, we won the conference championship, and then obviously the next year we won it again. But we can, if we have the right, like I said, the right people, doing the right things as far as keeping the players that are playmakers, having the right leadership in the locker room, keeping the staff together, and having the Citadel provide those resources. Like I said, keeping the weight on those guys, because I know last season we were undersized. I know you just mentioned speed-wise. If we can get those other players to the transfer portal and start taking advantage of the NIL situation, and retaining some high-end recruits and getting those playmakers, I think we can be successful. The one thing we hadn't touched on, and I really wanted to bring up too, was I do, from my understanding, I think the athletic program cut 4 scholarships this season for the football team. So that does hurt us in regards to if we're trying to be competitive and play other teams that are doing utilizing the transfer portal and taking advantage of the NIL situation, because all it takes is one player, especially at our level, to make or break a season. And if we don't have those 4 scholarships along with the resources and keeping the weight on the guys, it is tough to really dominate.
I was going to say, I'll have a story on those subjects in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Tom?
So Joe, as a former cadet athlete, I have to get your opinion on something here. We talk about it a lot on this show. What are your thoughts on non-cadet athletes at the Citadel, and is there an ideal mix, of cadets versus non-cadets?
Yeah, so I haven't really thought too much about it. I and this might be a political answer, but I didn't really see core squad versus core. I saw it as, I had my classmates, and I was very, very, camaraderie or cooperative with that group, especially within my company. I was in L Company Lima, and we had a good, strong bond as classmates. I did my part as a cadet, military-wise, but I did enough to where I wouldn't get in trouble. Made sure that I was checking the box in that regard. But football-wise, my importance was academics, because you're there to get an education, and the second one is football. I mean, to me, that was a job. That's what's paying for my school. that's what's important. But I do understand that because I have birdies on campus, and I have not talked to the coaches on any of this matter, so I'm speaking out of hand as far as for them. But from my understanding as a young alumnus, there has been a wider gap between the core and the core squad, and I would like to see that bridge. And I think that comes down to what's going on in Jenkins Hall, and kind of making it apparent that these athletes, though they are cadets, they also have major responsibilities with workouts, with practices, games, films, all these things that aren't equated into potentially why they might be missing a parade or might be missing a Saturday morning inspection. And I think when I was there, we had good leadership and in Jenkins Hall and at the school, and they were able to kind of create a balance. And I would like to see less of, hey, we're all a military school and these athletes need to basically get to the program of following the military protocol. And I would like to see a little more acceptance of, well, hey, these guys are, they're here year round, putting in work over the summer. They're making a lot of sacrifices to be here. And I feel like right now that's not being weighed enough.
And he's going to cover all of this in his 6th book when that comes out in a couple years. Joe, I do want to talk to you a minute about what life has been for you, like what it's been after you finished up at the Citadel. You are, if I pull this graphic up here with your name on it here in a second, people can see that you have your own company in the Atlanta area. It's the Crochet Realty Group. You got your master's at the Citadel. You have gone on back to your home area in Georgia. Tell me what life's been like for you.
Yeah, so it was tough, hanging up the cleats. Fortunately enough, we still have some of our teammates that are still playing at the next level in the NFL, and then other former teammates in the CFL or other leagues. But it was tough hanging up the cleats. There's a huge void to fill. I miss the locker room scene. I miss the guys. I miss just having that regimen and that routine. So navigating the work life was not easy. Going from the success we had at the Citadel to all of a sudden you're thrown into the real world, and now you got to do a 9 to 5 and kind of just push the clock. And so that was not easy. I navigated it I had a great opportunity at Sunoco, and it just wasn't a good fit for me personally. And I think they're a great company, and they did a great job as far as handling kind of offboarding me. But I wasn't fit for manufacturing. So I learned that early on. And then I went into sales and marketing for Stanley Black & Decker, and I was a DeWalt rep. And I managed Home Depots all across the state of Georgia and some in Alabama. I did that for 2 years, and I learned a lot, but realized that, again, that wasn't the path for me. And so I'm kind of still figuring it out, but, been blessed enough to go ahead and get my real estate license. I was on a team for a little bit. After that, broke off. Was an agent for myself for about a year, and then I created my own realty group. And right now I'm working on my broker's license, and growing our team and making the most impact we can here in Atlanta. And the end goal, John, is to open up a brokerage office in Charleston. So our brokerage now Compass is in Charleston, and I would like to have a satellite office for our team eventually here in the next couple of years.
I thought you were going to tell me the end goal would be to have the Crochet Realty Group Stadium at Johnson Hagood Stadium or something like that.
That would be amazing.
All right. Let me brag on Crochet Realty. Since 2020, Joe's company has achieved great success with over $65 million in real estate transactions. That ain't bad, Joe.
We're very fortunate. It's actually 75 now.
But, oops! Update your website.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I need to. But again, we are blessed to do what we do. I'm passionate about it. Actually, at the Citadel, one of my professors during undergrad, he talked about HGTV, and that was like what he liked to do on his off time. And so I started watching that after, not too long after that on weekends, and then started becoming a thing. I was like, man, Fixer Upper's a good show. Property Brothers is an awesome show. And I fell in love with just the transformation of how old properties can be restored and be nice properties. But we faced a lot of adversity, just like the Citadel. I mean, if y'all have been in tune with the market, I mean, rates have hit an economically all-time high. Obviously, inflation's playing a huge part of it, and we're just waiting to see kind of what happens with this election. But they have dropped a little bit, and kind of people are navigating these waters. But it has not been a smooth ride per se. It's been a heck of a roller coaster these last couple of years.
CrochetRealtyGroup.com is the website you can go and learn more about what he's doing. I guess you're licensed in Georgia. Any other places somebody could call you for some realty help?
So if you're looking anywhere, I'm your guy. We have offices all around the country. My big brokerage is Compass. We're nationally number one and been number one in sales volume for the last 3 years. And we focus in high-end luxury properties, but we're able to help out anybody down to a first-time home buyer or just an investor that's looking to buy several rental properties or fixer-uppers.
High-end home buyer Thomas Gruggs. He'll be calling you next.
I don't think so, John.
All right. Well, fellas, anything for Joe before we get out of here for the week? I guess I'll take that as a no. Joe, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Yes, I appreciate you guys for having me. It's always great to catch up, and y'all brought back some really awesome memories, and I'm going to cherish those for the next couple hours, and then got to get back to work. But the last thing I'll say, and this is something for anybody watching, that if you guys really want to support our football program, please donate to the Citadel Football Association. Charlie Baker is a very good friend of mine. He was actually my scholarship donor for me when I was at the school, and he actually was the original creator of the Spike logo.
Yeah, I see it on your shirt there.
Oh yeah, man. I could talk to you today's for about that situation, because I don't like the Chuck E. Cheese guy we got going on right now. But that's another conversation. But if you're looking to support our football program, I mean, all the money goes a long ways. These guys, like I said, we got to be competitive. We got to feed these guys. I know the CFA does steak night once a week, and hopefully they're able to do more, just because I know there's been some transitions with the core as well, as far as removing core squad mess, and that takes an effect on our players.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, congratulations to you and all your success. Also, newly married, or at least the last few years since you got out of the Citadel. So kudos to everything you got, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
Number 5, but number 1 in our hearts, Joe Crochet. Andrew, we can't get out of here without we promised people a other sports update. Anything going on beside the Knickerbockers?
Yeah, no, not right now. The basketball teams, they're starting their preseason practices. I talked to Dave Zelnick the other day, the volleyball coach, is obviously coming off a great season last year. He feels like that the team is, after their trip to Nebraska, I guess they lost to Denver. He was a little upset about their loss to Denver because he thought they could have beat them, but he thinks they've kind of found their footing and they're starting to move in the right direction.
All right. Again, follow Andrew at @APMiller_PNC for any other kind of updates. And have you put out a tweet of the Knicks and the Cadets together?
No, the story's going to run in tomorrow online.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be logging on for that, because I'd like to see the reaction. And kudos to the Knicks. They used to train at the College of Charleston, and then they made the move across the peninsula.
Well, I mean, if you look at McAllister Fieldhouse, you can set up 3 full court basketball courts in the same facility, and it's really, when the NBA teams have come down here, the 76ers were down here 2 years ago. Doc Rivers said the same thing. It's actually the perfect facility for a preseason camp. So I think we're going to see more NBA teams coming down here.
I think what I'm hearing is you think the Citadel should get out of the SoCon and join the NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Andrew, have a good week. We appreciate it.
Yep.
And Thomas, glad you got power. And you've got the power, big guy.
Yes, sirree. Glad to have power as well. It's good talking to Joe. Looking forward to a victory over Furman this weekend.
We are looking forward to it as well. Thomas, have a great week.
You do the same, John.
And we thank all of you for being a part of our show. Don't forget that you can catch Citadel Gray Line on YouTube. Just search for CRM Sports. We're also in iTunes and all the other places like Spotify that you can catch podcasts from all over the place. A free listen, and we appreciate our great sponsors that bring us Citadel Gray Line each week. We've got a Furman recap coming up on next week's show and more ahead as we roll into more of the month of October. We'll be past the halfway point, believe it or not, when we get back together. Until that time, have a great week. And again, special thanks to Number 5 and the author of, let me give that book one more plug, My Winning Seasons, Discovering the Champion Within, from Joe Crochet. A great Christmas stocking stuffer for sure. Y'all have a great week. Thanks for tuning in.